Hey guys, Tobin here with Planet Cyclery, and today we're going to go into a little bit more detail about the SRAM Force eTap AXS group set. I've had the privilege to be able to ride the 2x system here on this Cannondale Synapse, and I have to say that it has far exceeded my expectations. But today I brought in my compatriot Colby, who's been running the 1x setup on his gravel bike, and he'll tell you a little bit about his experience.
Hey guys, as Tobin said, I've been riding 1x on my gravel bike for the SRAM Force eTap AXS group, and I have really fallen in love with this group. I've been riding it on the road, off the road on gravel paths, but also taking it on some rocky cross-country mountain bike trails just to sort of test the limits of the group. And it's really been impressive. Starting with the crankset, I've got a 46-tooth chainring on my gravel bike, which is a little tall, but the best thing about the Force AXS group is it gives you some freedom to customize what you want to ride. With the front chainring, you can choose anywhere from a 36-tooth chainring to a 48-tooth chainring with 2-tooth jumps all the way up. So with my 46-tooth, I'm almost at that top end, but thanks to the 1033 cassette in the back, which we have here on this Cannondale and on my gravel bike at home, it gives you plenty of gear range to maintain the speed on the flats and descents, but with that 33-tooth cog at the top, you've got plenty of gear range to drop into when you're climbing.
Nice little bit of a bailout gear.
Yes, and I actually find that when I am climbing, I've often got an extra cog back there to jump into that kind of surprises me still, even after riding for a couple months. I'll be downshifting, I'll only be in my second highest cog, and then I'll find that I have one more gear to jump into, which is really nice when I'm climbing. The cassette options that you have with SRAM Force, 1026, 1028, and 1033. So we both like the 1033 for that 330% gear range, which has 5 1-tooth jumps in between. So you've got plenty of gears there to find exactly where you want to ride.
Really keeps that nice, smooth pedal cadence.
Absolutely. So the chain on the SRAM Force and SRAM Red groups is the new flat top chain from SRAM. It's a lighter, stronger chain, which is very durable, and you should see that it lasts longer than your other chains have. But the first thing you're going to notice when you get on the bike is just how quiet the flat top chain is. I think you can attribute that to the great design of this chain, but also to the function of the rear derailleur, which I think is the most impressive part of the group. It's got the Orbit fluid dampener inside, which keeps the rear derailleur aligned, but it also limits chain bounce really well. So when I'm off on gravel paths or even on those slightly rocky cross-country trails, I notice that the chain stays quiet, it stays tight, and it gives you a lot of control when you're riding.
You don't get that chain slap.
Yeah, this chain is not bouncing around, which is really nice. The hydraulic brakes, which we've got on here, disc brake setup, that's what I've got on my bike as well. They're very strong, give you great stopping power, but they also have excellent modulation, which gives you really good control on descents and cornering. You don't have to come to a complete stop if you don't want to, but if you do want to, you've really got the power to pull down on them, come to a stop. You just got to make sure you're not going to get thrown over the bars. So moving into the shifters, one thing I've definitely found, the shifters are extremely reliable. The response time is instant. You basically give it a click, and your rear derailleur and on the 2x setup, the front derailleur is going to respond instantly, moving the chain up and down the cog just as you please. So I've really been impressed with these. They're working flawlessly for me. And then another thing I really like about them is the hoods are very comfortable. I find that I spend a lot of time on my ride in the hoods. I've got flared bars on my gravel bike, and so my hoods are at a little bit of an angle, but I find it really comfortable and hardly spend any time on the bars while I'm riding.
I would agree. I found them to be very comfortable. A couple of additional features that I really liked was the adjustability of the levers. You can adjust the reach, so if you have slightly smaller hands, you can bring the lever in closer to the bar. You can also adjust the point of contact for the brakes to your personal preference. One last thing that I really appreciated as well is it's been exceptionally cold and wet season this year, and I've been wearing full finger gloves, and the extra texture on the paddle shifting gives you just a little more tactile feel and gives you a little bit more reliable shifting. But I would agree with Colby that the whole system works flawlessly. It's instantaneous. But I think that the highlight of the Groupset really is the app that you download for your phone that allows you to customize the way the shifting works for your personal preference. The app will give you real-time battery life. It will also notify you for scheduled maintenance, but really the highlight is allowing you to change the shifting to your personal preference. It's got an enhanced feature that has two different modes, both compensating and sequential. In the compensating mode, essentially what it does is when you shift the front derailleur, it'll automatically shift the rear derailleur as well, 1 or 2 cogs, depending on how you set it in the app, to allow you to keep that nice steady gear ratio and nice and smooth pedaling cadence. If you switch it to sequential, essentially what that does is it turns it into a virtual 1x14 system, meaning that you don't have to think about cross-training and shifting the front derailleur. So if you're in the largest ring in the front and you get to your last cog in the back, it'll actually downshift the front derailleur to the small cog and then down again one cog in the back to again keep you in a nice, steady, smooth pedaling cadence. And I found that to be extremely helpful. It just kind of blew me away the first time I set it up and I wrote it, and I thought, man, I never have to really think about shifting my front derailleur anymore. It does it automatically. Within the app, you can also set up multi-shift features so that when you hold the paddle down one way or the other, it'll shift 2 or 3 cogs depending on your personal preference, or you can set it up to dump the entire gear range. So, you know, if you're cresting a hill and you're coming up on a big descent, you can hold that paddle down and it'll just dump the gears, allowing you to not have to sit there and continually tap to get to the gear that you want. One other really cool thing about the app is that it's the same app that works for the mountain bike Eagle AXS Groupset. So if you're running a mullet, you can actually run a mountain bike rear derailleur and cassette and chain, and it still works with the road shifters within the app. If you're running a gravel setup, you can also run a dropper post, the RockShox Reverb Axis post. And if you're running a 1x system, since you don't really need the double tap to actuate the front derailleur, you can set it up within the app to actuate the dropper post. If you're running a 2x system on your gravel, you would have to use one of the eTap blips, but you would be able to mount it anywhere you want to on the bar. So there's tons of customizing, tons of personal preference. Allows you to really dial in the bike to your personal preference and how you ride.
And we love this group. It's really been a great time riding it, and Tobin even let me play with the 2x setup a little bit, so I took it on a little ride, and he had it on the sequential shifting at the time, and I thought that was really cool. Very impressive, and it'll help prevent everyone from cross-chaining, because there are some people out there who don't know that you need to stay away from that, and it'll prevent you from even getting to that point, which is really nice.
So if you have questions regarding any of the SRAM AXS Groupsets, please feel free to give us a call or stop by our shop.
You can always leave a comment on the video. If you've got questions as well, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and as always, pedal the planet.